As Israel and Hamas plunge into all-out war, Russia is acting as a secondary rather than a leading player. Nevertheless, despite its limited influence, it is becoming a major beneficiary of the current crisis, writes the New York Times columnist Hannah Knott. With minimal effort, Moscow is reaping the benefits of regional chaos. The protracted conflict benefits it in three key areas: the Ukraine conflict, its plans in the Middle East, and its global battle of ideas with the West. Without doing anything special, Putin is getting what he wants, the author of the article argues. Above all, she says, events in Gaza distract Western politicians and the public from Ukraine, which has to share the airwaves with Israel and the Palestinians. Fears that Western societies have begun to tire of supporting Kiev will continue to grow. It is not only media attention that is in short supply, but also shells. Joe Biden promises that the US can support Lviv and Kiev at the same time, but there are chances that it will eventually have to choose which one to send arms to. Russia must be relishing the emergence of a new and complex conflict for the United States, draining the strength of its adversaries, Knott argues. Moreover, the war in Gaza threatens to put an end to the Biden administration's efforts to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. Disrupting the Abraham Accords would give Moscow an excuse not only to revel in America's misery, but also to expand its nuclear energy cooperation with Riyadh and prevent it from strengthening the Arab-Israeli partnership against Iran. But Russia's biggest gain may concern world public opinion. Moscow's position on the current conflict and open support for the Palestinians coincides with sentiment in much of the Middle East, the author of the article points out. But Russia's aspiration go beyond the Middle East, portraying itself as David confronting the West's Goliath. It presents the Ukrainian conflict as an anti-colonial struggle, capitalizing on the powerful discontents throughout the developing world with the arrogance and hypocrisy of the US and its allies. For Russia, increasing disillusionment with the West and even attracting new supporters of its challenge to the world order would be an achievement for which to risk relations with Israel. That such a stance increases tensions in Europe on a pleasant side effect, Knott believes. In other words, the contradictions between the West and the developing world are growing, and the Kremlin, of course, will not miss the chance to further deepen this rift. The New York Times columnist believes, since the beginning of the Ukrainian conflict and the Hamas attack on Israel, Western governments have tried to convince the rest of the world that global order and democratic values are under threat. But as the spiral of violence in the Middle East gathers momentum, Washington and its associates are far from winning the battle of narratives. The Ukrainian conflict has taken a back seat. US-led diplomacy in the Middle East is in disarray, and the West and the rest of the world face each other over a chasm of mutual misunderstanding. In this state of affairs, Russia will do everything it can to capitalize, Knott concludes.